Hi, and welcome to the Skincarma Pod. I'm Carmine, the creator and voice of the Skincarma blog. With more than 25 years in beauty as a brand builder, copywriter, and skincare junkie, I'm putting my product wisdom and expertise to work, demystifying skincare. Today on the Skincarma Pod, I'm excited to welcome Madhu Punjabi, the co founder, CEO, and chief skin investigator at Lion Pose, the brand behind the breakthrough brightening serum Unspotted 4X Acid Jelly Night Serum. If you follow my blog, that Unspotted serum may sound familiar to you. I've talked about it frequently in the year and a half since it hit Sephora's shelves. I included Unspotted in my product recommendations for a perfect PM skincare routine. To be honest, it's the most effective topical treatment for dark spots and other forms of hyperpigmentation that I've come across. It can even help to fade acne marks and scars, among the most difficult complexion irregularities to treat topically. Last year, I declared Unspotted the Skin Karma Product of the Year. In fact, you can catch my product review of it on my blog. I'll drop the link in the show notes. Even more noteworthy, Unspotted was honored with the Beauty Matter Next Award for Best New Product Innovation in 2024. As an awards judge, what really intrigued me about the Unspotted serum is just how effective it is at targeting the appearance of dark spots, one of the most vexing of skin concerns for consumers. The world of skincare is littered with minimally effective dark spot serums, many of which are nothing more than big beauty marketing spin. The poster child for the hyperpigmentation hocus pocus is, of course, the OG Clinique Even Better Serum. Sure, that Robin's Egg ad was genius, but the formula was anything but. I firmly believe that consumers stopped believing anything would work on their dark spots after that. But the truth is, as is often the case, it would take an outside perspective to solve the problem. 20 years after that brilliant Clinique ad ran, Lion Pose has proven that you can effectively diminish dark spots and other forms of hyperpigmentation. Over the past year, I've gotten to know Lion Pose's co-founders, Madhu Punjabi and Nisha Phatak, and I know bringing the product to market and continuing to breathe life into the brand has been a Herculean effort, but it's paying off. I'm so excited to host Madhu on the podcast today and to have her share about her journey. Let's talk to Madhu. Madhu, hi.
Hi. I'm so
Welcome to
honored
the
to be here.
podcast. Oh, come
Thank
on.
you.
I'm honored to have you.
Well, we've been such huge fans of you for
Ditto.
since the beginning, since the very beginning. I think you picked up Unspotted and we were like, who's this guy that is using Unspotted? We had no idea. And you just knew all the right words and you could recognize all the differences in the inky that we were trying to do. And we're like, who is this person?
Wait a
Turns
minute.
out, of course, you are an expert in your field. And so we were so happy to be
Yeah,
here.
you know, we have a mutual friend, my really good friend Andrew.
Yeah.
And I think he's helped advise you on the brand at some
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And he reached out to me, and he does this very often, like when I see him and he comes in the city and he'll be like, I brought you these products. You have to see these products. They're not
It's
out
the
yet. Don't
best.
say anything. And he had alerted me about this product. And I
Yeah.
was like, what? First of all, I love the name. And I was like, oh my God, like really a dark spot serum? Is this one going to work?
Yeah.
And so I went onto Sephora's website that day and I bought it.
Oh my
And
God.
so I had it in hand and I was like, oh my God. So I actually had a full experience of the product before you had submitted it to the Beauty Next Awards.
That's crazy. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think you were using the product maybe like a year before, right? It was a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
So we've really jumped ahead, but I want to hear, I want everybody to hear who you are. And just talk to us about where you're from and what brings you to this point. How you got to this point of founding a skincare brand is wild to me.
Yeah, it is kind of it's still wild to me. I'm still
Yeah.
like, "What?" And now we're like 5 years in. But yeah, so I grew up in New York actually, so right where you
Mm.
are. I grew up in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
Really low income family, immigrants. And my dad was an entrepreneur, but he drove taxis at night my whole family always started businesses, but I saw all the struggle. So I actually did not want to be an entrepreneur because I was so scared of
Mm.
not making any money, because that's where my parents were at. So I studied my butt off, got every label on my resume that I could, and ended up in tech. Hedged my bets. I worked at every, big company, Google, Facebook. I was even at Amazon for 3 weeks. Don't ask me about that.
I was at McDonald's for 12
Oh,
days.
oh,
So
amazing.
everybody has one
I
of
gotta hear about
those.
that.
We can go into it, but continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So did all the big companies and got burnt out. I was, in tech during the time that it was growing really fast. Started in 2007. That was 1 year after Google IPO'd, and watched that whole, piece happen. And I went to business school. I met Nisha there, who's my co-founder. We met on the first day. It's funny because we didn't really keep in touch in business school because I was married already. And you just, when you're in business school and you're married, people don't really want to talk to you as much because you're not ready to date,
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we had just like totally different friends. But after business school, I started, I was at Pinterest and I left tech. And then I started a baby formula company because I had my first child. And everybody around me was like, you have to buy European formula. And I was wondering why. Everyone said that the ingredients were better. And so I was kind of interested in just ingredients by that time, because as I was pregnant and everyone was just claiming that there are better ingredients in Europe, I started researching everything. I started importing baby formula, selling it here in the US because I just had experience with ads. That was my background. I was like, I worked in advertising at Pinterest. I launched shopping pins at Pinterest, which is, an ad format. So I
Mhm.
just played around with stuff there. Sold $10,000 worth of baby formula in 1 week, and then raised money and grew that company to 10 million in revenue in 8 months,
Wow.
which was really crazy. That was a unique experience because it was very high demand. I didn't have to do that much marketing. People just really wanted that product. And it's subscription. People, once you
Yeah.
feed your child baby formula, there you go. You're on the same one for a while.
It's the same thing with a cat.
Is it? Is that right?
Absolutely. I can't change his pet food, and
Oh, you
he
can't?
has specific flavors that he loves. No, you can't change a cat's the what you
I
feed him.
didn't know that.
It's a whole nightmare because they're like
Wow.
shocked by it. They don't want to eat it. They're very finicky. And this one particular cat food that he eats every morning, his wet food, went out of stock at every place you could possibly buy it. And I was panic stricken, and thank God it came back in stock about 6 weeks later, and I had a stash of it because I'm always terrified that this is going to
Yeah.
happen. So I mean, get it. You're bought into that, and I can imagine
Yes.
it's even more. People are even more wedded to a product for their baby than their
Yeah.
pet.
Wow, that's so interesting. This makes sense why companies like Chewy
Mm.
and others had such high valuations.
Oh, sure.
Um, yeah, and so we really wanted to start our own formula here in the US because that's where you could get the larger margins. And so we applied to Y Combinator, got into Y Combinator. And I forgot to mention, Nisha came on and joined me as my VP of operations while I was at the original formula company.
Mm.
I had posted a job on Angel List, 2 or 3 months into the company, where things were just going gangbusters. I couldn't keep up, and I needed an ops person. And Nisha applied, and then texted me and said, "Hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I'd love to work for your company." And I was like, no, you don't. You definitely don't want to work for my company. You are a HBS grad. You need
Mm.
to go to a big company that's got cushions and great pay. You don't need to come to a startup where you're going to be working in my Reno warehouse. Um, and she was like, no, no,
Reno.
no, I really want to come. And I was like, okay, fine, let's interview. She interviewed. Everybody loved her. At the time I had a different co-founder. He liked her. And I still sat down with her and I'm like, are you sure? You have so many other places you can go. Startups are really hard. And she's like, no, 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 I'm in. And that was, man, like 7 or 8 years ago. And so she was my VP of operations. She was kind of my right hand person. we traveled the world together, trying, literally tasting baby formula.
Oh my God.
I know, I know, I know. It's kind of,
Personally, did they? I guess they don't try baby formulas on babies, right? Like you can't
I,
have a baby taste test anything.
yeah, there's a lot of, regulation around that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I at the time was breastfeeding, and I would, this is so crazy, but I would taste my breast milk, and then I would taste the baby formulas, and I would see which one was the closest to it. And I cannot believe I did that, but that is how I knew which baby formulas were going to work for kids.
Mm,
And so I brought, brought Nisha along with me, and then we decided to leave and start our own baby formula. My ex co-founder continued to run that business. It was
hmm.
more of an import export business, and I wanted something bigger. So we applied to Y Combinator, got in, and it was COVID.
Oh,
And then all supply chains broke down. And I don't know if you followed baby formula, but Similac at that time had a huge salmonella, I think it was, outbreak, and there was a baby formula shortage because the supply chains broke down, and we were having trouble with our partnership. So it turns out that only for baby formula, there's only one company in the entire United States that will white label for you, and
oh
that's
my
very
God.
different from skincare.
Yeah.
One company, they make every single Costco, Walmart, every single baby formula in the country, and it's a essentially an oligopoly. So our partner was like, just our Y Combinator partner investor. He said, "Get out of this business. You're going to be stuck with this one supplier who can raise prices on you anytime." And we were really sad. And we were interviewing a lot of our customers, our former customers who were moms, and thinking that we'll go into cribs or, something
Right.
adjacent.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, fix my skin. Get
Oh
me
my God.
Botox, get me fillers. Where do I get them? How much do I pay? Which derm should I go to?" We were like, "Whoa, skincare?" And simultaneously at the same time, I'll have to get my phone and show it to you. My skin was erupting. I had cystic acne. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but I had cystic
On your
acne.
website. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
up and down my cheeks. I'm still kind of fighting the scarring from it, but
Hmm.
at least I don't have any more. And I was like, "Oh, other people are having the same thing." And so, one thing that started to work for me was chemical peels. I had these dark spots, and I had tried everything. I tried, oh my God, what did I try? I tried Subcision, which is like, do you know about it?
I
Subcision?
don't. Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's for the indented marks like ice pick scars,
Okay.
boxcar
Yeah.
scars.
Mhm.
You go under local anesthesia, and they take a needle and they like basically break up the subcutaneous skin, and so it causes your body to repair itself, right?
Right.
So I tried stuff like that, which was very aggressive. I tried lasers. I tried everything. I mean, I must have spent over $20,000 trying to fix my scars. And then it turned out what worked for me was this chemical peel. Actually, it was it's a chemical peel called Vitalize, and it was like the Skin Medica chemical peel that I had in office. And one of the dermatologists I was seeing, she said, "Stop using all the products you're buying." I'm not going to name the names, but I was buying all the big products that claim that they solve hyperpigmentation, including vitamin C's. She
Right.
said, "Stop it. Your skin is different. You might actually hyperpigment more if you use certain things, like certain acids or at different levels. Like I can't use there is a famous red serum that has a very high percentage of glycolic acid." And she was like, "Absolutely not. Do not use it on your skin. You will hyperpigment."
Wow.
And I said, "Whoa, okay." So she gave me, this peel, and within days, I could see a whole layer of my skin improve and come off. And I was like, "How do you bottle this?" My mom had the same issues, and she would never go to a derm to handle it. She's just so scared of doctors. And I was like, "Well, how do I bring this home?" And so that kind of started the journey of our Unspotted, which
Mm.
was kind of in the making for 3 years, while Nisha and I kind of tried to figure out the skincare industry. Yeah.
From scratch.
Yeah, from
Right.
scratch. We had no idea what we were doing, and thank God, because we wouldn't be here if I knew. much about the skincare
Totally.
industry.
Well, we've talked about this, how I told you last week when we spoke that people are always trying to talk me into starting my own Skin Karma skincare brand. And you're
And I was
like,
like, you know too much.
you know
You know
too
too
much.
much.
I know too much. There's no way that's
I know.
happening. So that's cool. So Lion Pose is
Yeah.
born, and I have to ask you, I'm a copywriter and I've named dozens and dozens of products and brands. I love the name. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so, after I had my second child, really bad skin, and I couldn't go out without makeup. I couldn't even honestly, I was so embarrassed to sleep next to my husband without makeup because it was so
Wow.
bad. Um, actually, can I go get my phone and show it to you? Are you gonna
Yeah,
Is that okay?
absolutely.
Okay, give
Yeah,
me
of
1 second, I'll
course.
show you.
Yeah, just stay on. Yep.
Yeah, so this was my skin. I don't know if you could see that.
Yes. Wow. My God.
Yeah, so it was really bad. Like, look at that eyebrow
Yeah, that's pretty
pimple.
serious. That's serious.
It was really bad, and this is, like, during the time that I was, a postpartum with my second child. My first child, who was about 2 and a half at that time, was starting to go to preschool, and
Hmm.
I had no confidence in myself, like, I would stay at home. I was kind of depressed because I didn't wanna see my friends with this kind of face, but my daughter was having trouble because she was so scared to go she was having anxiety about school. And I started doing little yoga poses with her in the morning because I love yoga, and there's this one
Hmm.
pose called lion pose that
Mm.
brings out your voice. And we would make her roar in the morning and make her excited for the day.
Wow.
So the whole pose actually removes restrictions from your voice so you can roar and
Hmm.
gets back your confidence, right? And so at the time, there were 2 contenders for this company. Nisha and I made a list of all these names, and the 2 that we narrowed it down to was Acid Skincare, because we were making an acid,
Right.
and Lion Pose, and
Oh, wow.
I was actually very into acid.
Hmm.
I was like, "That's what I want. It's direct,"
Yeah.
and Nisha was like, I don't want acid on my face. Like, I don't think that that's okay." And
Right.
then
It's aggressive.
she's like, "I love lion pose." And so,
Yeah.
kudos to Nisha. We really took that name and ran with it. Just so happened it also had no trademark issues, which is a big, big deal in
Right.
in beauty. So, yeah, we went with it.
That's super cool. I love that story. And
Yeah.
and I guess I knew. I mean, I've done yoga during COVID, of course. Everybody did yoga.
Yeah.
And
What else did you do during COVID that you don't do?
I baked cheesecake. I
Ooh,
bought
you
yeah,
baked
I
cheesecake? That
bought
takes
that
like 24
tin.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, because I live across the street from Junior's Cheesecake, like
Oh, and you
Junior's
didn't wanna
Cheesecake
buy
in
it?
downtown Brooklyn. They were shuttered. And,
Oh.
I loved going in there and getting cheesecake when I first
Yeah.
moved to Brooklyn. And so I bought the cheesecake tin and
That
I
is
baked a cheesecake and it
amazing.
was a nightmare.
It's
It
so
came out
hard.
great. It's so hard. It came out great. It was delicious. And I said to myself, this is never happening again. And I'm sure I don't even know where that pan is. It might still be under the counter. And I'm planning a move to LA in the fall, and I'll probably find it and
So
be like,
you didn't drown your cheesecake? Like, that's what happened to me. I drowned it, and I was so
I
sad.
I didn't drown it. I did have the water in the
You
in
had the
the
water
in the
thing.
cookie.
Yeah.
I guess it was a cookie sheet
Yeah.
underneath it,
Yeah.
like in the
Yeah.
bottom of the oven. I bought a pizza stone. The pizza
Mhm.
stone's still in the oven.
Yep.
Like I made pizza on a pizza stone. Like
Oh,
how
that sounds great.
crazy is that?
That sounds
Yeah.
lovely.
Like this pizza and cheesecake are things that you just should buy.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
somebody else, and most somebody else's are going to do better at making those for
Yeah.
you than you can make
Yeah.
them yourself. So
That's so true.
yeah, so
I bought this pizza maker, actually. I saw this was actually before COVID. I saw Kylie Jenner once on a I think it was like Snapchat or TikTok
Mhm.
at that time. And she was making a pizza. I don't know if she was high or whatever, but she was making a pizza, and it looked so good. I was like, "What is she using?" And it turned out it's called like a Breville Breville crusty pizza maker or something like that. I bought it. I kid you not, I use that thing like every Friday during COVID. And
Yes,
now
of
it's
course. It's
under
there somewhere. You
somewhere.
find it when you move.
Under something.
It's under something, under something.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's super cool that, hearing how the brand came about and
Yeah.
how you almost called it something else. And I want to talk about this product. This is the product,
Yeah.
Lion Pose Unspotted. We'll leave it at that. It's got a much longer descriptor
Yeah.
that I talked about in the intro. And I mentioned that I designated the Skin Karma Product of the Year. It really blew me away. When we do as a product judge in the Beauty Matter Next Awards, there's like, I think last year there were 150, 160 products. And
Yeah.
they're not
Oh,
all
wow.
they're
That's a
not all
lot.
serums, right?
Yeah.
There's eye creams and moisturizers and body products and sunscreens, of course.
Yep.
And let's just mention that you also won the award for best sunscreen,
I know. I was
which is
shocked.
that is so wild. I mean, clearly unprecedented.
Yeah.
But the formulas are just incredible. But I really want to
Thanks.
focus on this because I have a long history in beauty. I have been working in beauty for 25 years. I know I'm aging myself, but the truth is, and a lot of listeners aren't even 25. And so I've been in beauty for a long,
Yeah.
long time, and I've seen so many things come and go. And one of the most vexing concerns is dark spots.
Yeah.
And, I was around when Clinique published that ad with the robin's egg on it. And, the ad was more successful than the formula was at clearing dark spots. And so it's just so interesting to me that you tackled this first and that you really nailed it. So let's talk
Thank
about
you.
this product. Like, I know it's got a really terrific complex. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a 15% complex
Yes.
of, let me see if I remember, it's glycolic, azelaic, tranexamic, and I'm missing one, lactic.
Lactic. Good
Yes.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have it we don't disclose the percentages, but we have it in a unique percentage that we have worked with Harvard dermatologists and amazing chemists to come up with the right amount of each. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you might know this, but there's a limit to how many AHAs we can put in a serum that you can buy off the shelf, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe AHA itself, you can only do max 10%.
Okay.
But we kind of hacked it because the other acids are not considered AHAs. They're not
They are
100%
not. Yeah.
AHAs.
Yeah.
But they are acids that work on inhibiting, they're tyrosinase inhibitors, which are the technical term for basically blocking the dark spots from forming, right?
Right. Right.
And so it's much stronger than you can get on the market. It is like the strength is just shy of prescription, which is what we wanted to do. We wanted to get people like my mom, who is not going to go to the doctor,
Yeah.
a product that's actually going to work right before prescription level. So she doesn't have to go to the dermatologist. And as you know, dermatologists, it's very hard to get an appointment. Um,
Yeah.
and there's only 10,000 dermatologists in the United States. I don't know if you know this. There's only 10,000 in
I
the United
don't.
States. There are 300 million people in the United States. There is absolutely no way everyone can get treated by a dermatologist.
Right.
Absolutely no way. That's why your waits are like 6 months. And so what do you do? What do you do before you get an actual treatment? And so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to be available for that kind of proxy for treatment before you get it.
Yeah. Can we talk about dark spots? Let's do a deep
Yeah.
dive. Like, you know, what causes dark spots? There's UV, right? Unprotected sun exposure, hormone changes,
Yeah.
inflammation, PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So that is the result of acne, right? An acne mark or an acne scar is essentially PIH. Medications, simple aging. So
Right.
there's so many, it reminds me, I know this is going to sound severe to you, it reminds me of treating migraines.
Hmm.
And I'm a migrainer. Like, if I'm not taking care every day, I will have a migraine every single day. Like
Oh,
I wake
wow.
up every morning with something going on.
That's
And
really tough.
so, but the thing is with dark spots and migraines, they're caused by so many different things, and they're so unique to different people that
Yep.
it's hard to treat them with one thing. And I
Yes.
feel like you've gotten pretty damn close to finding a treatment for all of those causes of dark spots.
Oh, I mean, that's generous. I don't think it solves everything, but,
Mhm.
you're right. So the main one that I was very much focused on, there's a 3 that I was focused on.
Mhm.
Actually, to be honest, it was 2. 2 that
Okay.
I was focused on, and the 3rd just happened to be targeted. So one was PIH, because that
Yeah.
is actually what I had.
Yeah.
And every time I get a pimple or like, first of all, most of the time it's cystic acne, which is hormonal. And then it's just buried underneath so many layers. And so you need just so much exfoliation to get it out. So that's one. PIH is big. The second one was melasma. So after having my first child, I had never experienced melasma before, and it's kind of this like bluish undertone
Mhm.
of it's like patchy. Usually it starts on the cheeks, maybe on the forehead. Some people get it over here. They'll get like a melasma stash. And I was starting to get those. So that was melasma. My mom has really, really bad melasma, which tends to happen. That's particularly hormonal. That's, pregnancy, menopause, those are the
Oh,
big times that this happens, which is
yeah.
why my mom, she is 72. She actually was the first one to use Unspotted every day for 6 months. And it's insane if I show you the before and afters. Um, then the third is active acne, which we didn't expect this was going to address. And look, I'm not even allowed to advertise acne because it's an OTC term that's
Right.
regulated.
Yeah.
But blemishes is the term I'm allowed to use.
Yeah.
That one we didn't realize was going to also be affected. And we learned that because Nisha happened to be pregnant when we were almost final with the product. And Nisha was getting tons of acne
Mhm.
during that time. And she used Unspotted every single day, which, by the way, we formulated to use during pregnancy because we both had been through that. And she ended up clearing up during her pregnancy. And then
Wow.
we've also heard that from many, many customers. So, and that's particularly the azelaic acid in there
Yeah,
that
for
helps
sure.
with
Mhm.
blemishes. Now we have it at a it's not a nominal percentage. It actually is a sizable percentage, but it's not at the prescription strength because I wouldn't
Right.
be able to launch it that way.
Right.
But prescription strength azelaic acid is used for targeting acne and dark spots. So, I think we just got a little bit of that benefit.
Yeah, I love azelaic acid, and I use it every morning.
You do?
I have very clear skin. I don't have,
Yeah.
every once in a while I'll get a blemish, and
What causes
mostly
it
it's
for you?
down in my beard,
Mhm.
like ingrown hair, or maybe I'm
Yeah,
not
like
doing a
oil
good
or
enough
something.
job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I use a little bit of the Paula's Choice 10% azelaic
Yep.
acid.
Yep.
I squeeze it into my palm, just a little tiny drop of it, and then I mix it in with my moisturizer
Uh-huh.
before sunscreen, and I put it on every day. And
Oh, that's great.
I've
The
seen,
booster, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think it's kind of an unsung hero
I know.
of
I agree.
complexion, illuminating a complexion.
I
And
think
nobody really
azelaic
talks
acid
about it. I think it's
is
also hard
amazing.
to formulate with. I
Yes.
mean,
It's
yeah, right?
very chalky.
Yes,
It's very, very
yes.
chalky. Oh my gosh, I should tell you about the first time we formulated Unspotted. I'm
Hmm.
trying to see if I have pictures of it. If I do, I'll send it to you. But this was what, we know how I mentioned we were trying to figure out the skincare industry.
Yeah.
We were two, overconfident Harvard grads thinking we could figure this out. And we went to Nisha's house and bought all the acids. I put together a recipe. I was like, I want these acids in here. We bought some glycerin. We bought like all this stuff that I basically looked up on a YouTube video how to create my own serum. And then we went and made it at her house. And I kid you not, we made like 10 versions of it. And every time we added the azelaic acid,
Mm.
it just balled up and it basically turned into this ball, like almost like it went from liquid to ball. And we were so confused. Like imagine like a jello ball.
Yeah.
Um, we were so confused. And then we found out, oh, there's this thing called boiling points and
Right.
and chemistry.
Yeah.
And we have never made our own, we have never DIY'd our own skincare after that because we were like, there is absolutely no way we could figure out how to put all these acids together. And this is why this serum is particularly hard to make because you cannot make it at home. And even if you try to layer on the acids,
Mm.
it'll ball up on your skin. So
Oh my God.
you can't do it.
Right.
You have to basically get them. It's like, it's like any recipe, like your cheesecake recipe. If you don't
Yeah.
do it things at the right time, you might drown the cheesecake. And it's no longer a cheesecake. Same thing with serums. They are highly engineered. You need to be with a chemist that really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So there's other products in the range.
Yeah.
I know you recently launched Pep Talk, which is this
Yes.
really terrific moisturizer, peptide moisturizer, and of course the Lion Pose Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this tinted sunscreen. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, we launched a sunscreen. It was mainly because we were working so closely with our dermatologists, Dr. Tia Paul and Dr. Laura Scott. Wow, it's like blending in so well to your skin.
Oh yeah, it's
Awesome.
incredible. And I'm not a fan of tinted sunscreens because I have a beard and my beard
Yes.
is really light and
Yes.
usually they dye my
They
beard
dye
and
your beard.
but this doesn't.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, I don't have that
Awesome.
I don't have that love-hate relationship with this one. It's for some reason it just doesn't dye my beard
I
hair.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we wanted to, I mean, again, if I knew about how hard it was to make sunscreen, I would not have made sunscreen. But we didn't know. And we came from infant formula, which is highly regulated, right? So we weren't scared of FDA approvals. We knew about clinical trials and we wanted our brand to be clinically tested. We found out that, no brand is held to any clinical testing standards in the United States.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and let alone the fact that basically, even when you do a clinical, so there are brands that do clinicals just because they want to, and most brands do not test on more than one skin tone. And we wanted to test on all skin tones. This is
Mhm.
why. This is why Ghostbuster, or like Unghosted, formerly known as Ghostbuster,
Mhm.
um, has a different tint to it because we tested on all skin tones. There's a Fitzpatrick scale 1 through 6
Yeah.
that the medical community uses to identify skin tones and treat skin tones, particularly for cancer and UV exposure. But we used that same scale to identify participants in our studies, which nobody before us had done.
Mhm.
So we spent a lot on clinical studies. Now, back to the sunscreen, our dermatologist said that, well, if you're going to have an acid that's that strong, it's going to make your skin photosensitive and you absolutely need sunscreen. That would be the next product that we would prescribe to our patients. So we thought, okay, that's the next product we're making. Now, it
Wow.
doesn't follow the traditional, as you know, skincare path because
No. Yeah.
usually you would do cleanser, treatment,
Yeah.
moisturizer, and you have kind of the old school kind of Clinique 3-in-1 or
Yeah.
proactive, 3-step. Um, we didn't do that.
Yeah, most brands
We
stay away from sunscreen for years.
Yes, for years. We went straight to sunscreen.
Yep.
And um that was another 2.5-year journey. And we particularly wanted it to be clean, again, for pregnancy.
Mhm.
We wanted it to be pregnancy safe. So we actually picked a 100% mineral sunscreen, which is very hard to work with. Again, zinc is very chalky
Yeah.
and has a white color to it, which is
Mhm.
why sunscreens, and when I put it on my children, they hate it because it's just like
Yeah.
white and pasty.
Totally.
So we worked with an incredible chemist who suggested using this new type of zinc called super zinc, which was extremely small but non-nano
Mhm.
particles of zinc. And we added iron oxides, which is also great for protecting against UV rays, but is a natural colorant. So
Yeah.
there's no, mica, which is another thing that people use, which is kind of colors the product. And there's no traditional colorants in there. So Yeah, that's how this came about. We launched it, luckily got an SPF 46. We had no idea what we were going to get. This is one of those things that is so frustrating in sunscreen where you spend all this time making it and then at the end you're submitting it for testing and you have no idea where it's going to
What's going to
land.
happen? Yeah, totally. And you're
And
terrified because,
terrifying.
the marketing plan is SPF blank.
Right.
And, it comes back and it doesn't come back. You submit it and hope it comes back at SPF 40. And it either comes back as SPF 38 or 42 or
Yes.
40, right? It's like
Yes, I was so
totally
scared.
random.
And Nisha and I actually got into an argument before because Nisha's, head of operations. She's our COO, and she was keeping us on a timeline. Thank God for her, because I think if it was up to me, I would never launch because I would perfect every product to the nth
Yeah.
degree. And Nisha's like, no, we got to launch, right? And we got into an argument because I was like, well, what if we don't get above SPF 40 or we get SPF 29? We can't go to market with that.
Yeah.
And so we would have had to push back the timeline, but luckily we were good on that.
That's great.
So
I remember back in my days at Kiehl's, we were formulating a new sunscreen and it came back as an SPF 23. And we had this whole internal debate. Should we just bring it down to 20? And
yeah,
I was like, no, I love the intentionality of 23.
yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like, that we intended for it to be an SPF 23, and that's what it is.
Did you
And
launch it
yeah,
with
we launched it
23?
with an SPF 23.
Nice.
Yeah, why
How
not?
did
And
it
Kiehl's
go?
was like, Kiehl's has that quirkiness about it, so
Yeah.
Kiehl's could get away with it.
I love that you worked at Kiehl's. That's
I did for 7 years
such an
in-house.
epic brand. What did you do
Yeah,
there?
I was their first ever copywriter.
That's amazing.
In 150 years, they'd never had a copywriter. And we're talking, about a package that is nothing but copy.
Did you do their emails too? Like, did you have a
Yeah,
hand?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that.
Did
Anything
you
that
know that there
I did their bathroom door signs that said the toilet is out of service.
No way.
Like, absolutely. And in the stores,
Now
and
they're just being lazy.
there's always the skeleton, those
Yeah,
skeletons
a
in the stores
skeleton.
with a sign around his neck. I
Yes.
wrote that signage. I
No
wrote
way.
every single thing for 7 years. Yeah.
So, I always think that, when you start a company, there's so much of your subconscious that's in play.
Hmm.
And I think all this time I had been building skincare knowledge. We back in 2014, Nisha and I were in business school, and there was a case study that was the Kiehl's case study, and it was this famous case study um, at HBS. And I kid you not, everybody started using Kiehl's after that case study.
Wow.
They gave out so much product. First of all, it was like the best advertising, and the whole case study was on how their emails kept customers happy, and there's like this brilliant marketing strategy. And they actually went through the copy. And so I
No.
wonder if I'll have to send this to you. I wonder if you actually
What year
were
was
part of
that?
that. I don't know when they wrote the case, but we studied it in like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, so that
So
was me for sure.
that would have been you
And
then.
our
That's
favorite
wild.
my favorite emails to write were history of New York emails
Yeah.
because Keels was so embedded in New York
In New
City.
York.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and we used to every month we wrote an email about the history of New York, and then
That's incredible.
tied it back to Keels as a New York institution for 150 years in the Lower East Side. Yeah, those were so fun. I
Wow, I'm
loved
gonna
writing
send it
those.
to you.
You
I wonder
have
if
to. I
you're
want to
in
read
there.
it.
That
What if
is
I'm
incredible.
named?
You're
No, I'm just
probably named
kidding.
in there, and I
I'm
never
not.
knew I was gonna meet you.
You know how it is.
It's
We're
crazy.
ghostwriters. Ghostwriters. We get no cred. My name isn't on any packaging labels.
Well,
But
neither is mine, so
yeah,
it's
true.
okay.
It's true. So listen, I want to talk.
Yeah,
I want to talk before we wrap up about your
yeah,
customer.
yeah.
Who was the target, and what was your relationship with that customer in the beginning, and then how has it evolved?
Yeah, initially our customer was we were, looking at people of color,
Hmm.
because that, for example, is where dark spots hit the hardest, right?
Right.
Because of the melanin in the skin. And what's interesting is as we've been in market, we realize that almost everyone faces hyperpigmentation,
Yeah.
regardless of the skin tone. And it particularly affects women after hormonal changes.
Hmm.
So the melasma, the PIH, even people don't talk about acne in their 40s and 50s. People think acne is just for 18-year-olds, and that's not true at all. I've had
At
more
all,
acne
yeah.
now in my life, in my 30s, and now I'm about to be 40 this year, than I did when I was 18. I had clear
Mhm.
skin when I was in high school and
That's
college.
fascinating.
And so yeah, so our customer is actually now it's race independent,
Mhm,
ethnically independent, um, and it's a 35 plus, generally woman who's got kids because she's gone through these hormonal changes, and her lifestyle's different, right? Her lifestyle general and actually most of the women are working. We know this now because I've done a ton of interviews. They're working, they have these high-powered jobs, they have, multiple, in some cases, kids. They dream of taking a break, but they don't want to because they love what they do. And they have these skincare issues, but they have the cash to solve it. They
mhm,
simultaneously do not have the time to
mhm.
go to the dermatologist every 6 weeks, which is what, people in Hollywood do.
Right.
Um, and so they want a solution that they know works. So that's our customer.
That's great. That's so cool. And before we wrap up, I just
Yeah,
wanna talk about your side hustle
my side
as a
hustle.
skin investigator.
Oh, that's so funny. I was like, "What side hustle?" I have no time for side hustles. Are you
As
talking about?
chief skin investigator.
I know, that was my cheeky way of making sense out of what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am, well, I don't do it much, but, my screen name on TikTok is Skin Investigator. Part of the
Mhm.
reason why I named it that is because people can't pronounce my name, and that's totally fine. I know I have a very hard name. But,
Ditto.
investigator was actually what I was doing, like, as part of my job, we didn't talk about Pep Talk, but Pep Talk was I spent 9 months researching peptides, what they do, why they do it. I had no idea. People talk about peptides. I didn't realize exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And so I spent 9 months trying to figure out, for example, with peptides, it's not enough to just say, I have peptides in my skincare because
Right.
there are peptides for your gut, for your skin, for your mouth, you could have a peptide anywhere. That's just like saying, I have cells.
I
You
think
know,
I asked ChatGPT once how many peptides there were, and I couldn't get a straight answer.
in the world, right? Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, like yeah,
so many, so
yeah.
many. So, I think in skincare, and this, there's so many cursory words that are just thrown out there. And for pep talk specifically, I really wanted a peptide. Peptides, by the way, are short chain amino acids.
Mhm.
So remember the last time you probably heard amino acid was when talking about protein, right? So
Yeah,
like, which are longer chain amino acids. Protein is the building blocks of your body, right? So the short chain ones aren't proteins. They're short of being a protein, but they signal to other parts of your body to do something. They're
yeah,
almost like, start like traffic lights. They're like traffic lights.
yeah,
And so you want a traffic light that's going to indicate go for a certain synthesis. And so with Pep Talk, we specifically researched many different peptides. One peptide, which I loved in particular, that had incredible clinicals, was bioplacenta. That is a combination of 5 different peptides mimicking the peptides found in a placenta, which is nuts. But you can imagine you're building baby skin during that time. And
yeah.
so you want to rebuild your skin. So these peptides actually signal to your body to repair itself, on a skin level. Is it going to affect your gut? No, that's not what it's made to do. But there are other peptides. For example, there's a peptide that one of my gastroenterologist gave me because I also have a lot of gut issues, called BPC 157.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And this peptide, I was taking it, and it was specifically for the gut lining to repair itself. So to
Wow.
fill in the gaps of your gut lining. I can't just ingest bioplacenta and assume that the same thing will happen. So my PSA was that look for the peptide, understand what it's doing and whether it's the right peptide for you. It's not enough to just say that there's peptides in your lip care or skincare.
Right.
And that's kind of how Skin Investigator started. I just started going down these rabbit holes, and I wanted to educate on what I'm learning.
That's great. That's great, and I hope people follow you on TikTok. I'll drop it in the show notes. I
Thank
love your
you.
videos. They're
Thanks.
incredible.
I
They
love yours.
inspire me. I know. It's kinda
I
crazy,
love yours
right?
because you're so fun about it. I'm so serious. You have like really fun videos and
I
you
do
and
have to be goofy.
they're
Like it's so
hilarious. Um
I hope I don't offend anybody. I'm just having fun. Anyway, it's
I
just
love that.
TikTok. Hello.
I
Um
know.
anyway, Madhu, thank you so
Thank you.
much. I really appreciate this. This
Thanks.
is
This is
just a great
awesome.
conversation. I knew it would be. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep making incredible formulas that break through and kind of are a step above, just a step above everything else that's out there.
Thank you so much, Carmine. This is awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, how cool was that conversation? Dark spots can be diminished. You can treat dark spots, but you have to use something that is reliable, that's clinically proven, that uses clinical levels of actives. You just have to use a good product. That's all. Thank you for listening to the Skin Karma Pod. Find more insights, real talk, and reviews of my favorite skincare products on the Skin Karma blog at skinkarma.com. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate and review this episode. It helps me to reach more listeners. Ciao.